Elected representatives, this instruction is clear. Hold your tongue. This is not the time to speak. These words are not mere suggestions or vague advice. They reflect a profound necessity, an order imposed by the gravity of the current moment. Every word spoken out of place can turn a delicate situation into an irreversible disaster. This is not caution born of fear, nor silence born of cowardice, but discernment and self-control. At this precise moment, speech is a tool that can either build or destroy, and it is essential to choose carefully when and where to use it. Imagine for a moment the weight of your words, the power they carry in a context where every utterance is scrutinized, analyzed, and interpreted. Speaking without discretion is like lighting a flame in a room filled with gunpowder. A single spark can trigger a chain reaction beyond anyone's control. Silence is not passivity, it is strategy. It protects your responsibilities and the fragile balance surrounding you. What you choose not to say may be worth 1,000 ill-timed speeches. Today, the pressure is immense. The stakes are high. Eyes are on you, not to judge your intentions, but to observe your actions and reactions. In this environment, understanding the value of silence becomes vital. It is not merely an exercise in personal discipline. It is an act of collective responsibility. Every moment you restrain your words preserves coherence, unity, and credibility. Impulsiveness can be costly, and the time for speaking will come, but only when the moment is right. I therefore call you to immediate, thoughtful action. Observe silence with determination. Reflect before speaking. Measure the impact of every word, and restrain yourself until the appropriate moment arrives. This is not silence born of fear, but of strategy, a silent force that protects what is fragile and precious. Take this instruction to heart. In this exact moment, your voice must remain discreet, not from lack of opinion, but from wisdom. Thus begins this journey of discernment. Understand the power of silence and learn to master it. The following sections will explain why restraint is crucial, how it can transform situations, and which strategies will allow your words to carry the weight they deserve when the time comes. But first, anchor this truth in your mind. In the art of governance, hasty words are often the enemy of success, and well-chosen silence is an invincible ally. 1. Context. To understand why the instruction to remain silent carries such weight, we must first examine the historical and political landscape in which leaders operate. Throughout history, the spoken word has been both a tool of influence and a source of destruction. In moments of crisis, a single statement could spark alliances or ignite conflicts, strengthen authority, or erode it entirely. Political leaders, in particular, have long faced the delicate balance between speech and silence. From ancient councils to modern parliaments, those who spoke without prudence often faced consequences far greater than they anticipated. Conversely, those who mastered the art of measured speech, knowing when to speak and when to hold back, frequently gained lasting influence and respect. This instruction is not arbitrary. It arises from a recognition of the fragile equilibrium inherent in governance and public life. When tensions are high and uncertainty abounds, premature commentary can unravel careful strategies, compromise negotiations, and expose vulnerabilities. Leaders who fail to restrain themselves risk not only personal reputation, but also the stability of the institutions and communities they serve. In volatile contexts, silence is not inaction. It is a calculated and deliberate form of engagement. It signals prudence, patience, and a clear understanding of the broader picture. Consider historical examples. In diplomatic crises, premature leaks or ill-timed statements have led to the breakdown of agreements, escalation of conflicts, or public panic. Political maneuverings, when poorly articulated, have toppled governments overnight. In such instances, the wisdom of restraint is evident. Those who exercised silence carefully preserved their position, safeguarded the collective good, and retained the ability to act decisively when the moment was right. Silence, in these cases, became a strategic weapon, a shield against unnecessary risk, and a demonstration of leadership discipline. The stakes today are no less significant. Contemporary leaders operate under unprecedented scrutiny. Every word is recorded, analyzed, and circulated widely. In this environment, the cost of speaking at the wrong time is magnified exponentially. Social media, instant news cycles, and global attention mean that even a minor lapse in judgment can have far-reaching consequences. The instruction to hold one's tongue is, therefore, a protective measure as much as it is a strategic imperative. It recognizes that the power of speech is double-edged. Wielded wisely, it can persuade, inspire, and mobilize. Wielded carelessly, it can destabilize, provoke, and divide. This necessity of restraint is further compounded by the complexity of modern governance. Decisions are rarely isolated. They ripple through networks of institutions, allies, adversaries, and the public. A single, ill-timed remark can derail carefully constructed policies or compromise sensitive negotiations. Leaders are constantly navigating a landscape of competing interests, hidden agendas, and shifting dynamics. In such a context, silence is a form of situational awareness, an acknowledgement of the intricate interplay of forces that surround every decision. It is a deliberate pause, a moment to assess, reflect, and align one's actions with both immediate and long-term objectives. Ultimately, the instruction to remain silent is rooted in the timeless principle that wisdom often lies in restraint. Words have consequences, sometimes immediate, sometimes delayed, but always significant. By holding one's tongue in critical moments, leaders exercise control over outcomes, preserve trust, and maintain the authority necessary to act effectively when the moment truly demands. The path of measured speech is not easy. It requires discipline, self-awareness, and courage. Yet it is precisely this path that distinguishes effective leadership from impulsive reaction, foresight from recklessness, and strategic action from chaos. In this light, the call to silence is not a restriction. It is an empowerment. It equips leaders with the ability to navigate complex, high-stakes situations with clarity, purpose, and foresight. It reminds them that timing, context, and audience are as critical as content itself. The instruction is a safeguard against the pitfalls of overzealous commentary, a guide through the turbulence of political and social pressures, and a tool for achieving outcomes that serve the greater good. Recognizing and respecting this principle is the first step toward mastering the art of leadership, where every word counts and every silence speaks volumes. 2. Consequences. The decision to speak or remain silent is never neutral. It carries weight, consequences, and sometimes irreversible outcomes. In leadership, especially during critical moments, words can either illuminate the path forward or ignite unforeseen crises. To understand the stakes, consider two contrasting scenarios: the leader who speaks impulsively and the one who masters the art of restraint. When a leader speaks prematurely, the immediate consequences are often visible. Confusion spreads among allies, opponents exploit missteps, and public confidence wavers. A single poorly chosen remark can derail negotiations, expose vulnerabilities, or provoke conflict. History is rife with examples. In diplomacy, officials have unintentionally sabotaged peace talks by making statements that antagonized one side or misrepresented intentions. In politics, impulsive comments have toppled careers, fueled scandals, and eroded public trust. Even outside the political arena, organizations have suffered from executives who revealed sensitive information before the timing was right, causing financial loss, reputational damage, and internal discord. The pattern is clear. Unguarded speech amplifies risk and diminishes control. By contrast, the leader who remains silent, deliberately and strategically, often gains the upper hand. Silence is a tool of observation and calculation. It allows time to gather information, anticipate responses, and craft statements that carry maximum impact. A quiet leader preserves credibility, avoids unnecessary conflict, and positions themselves to act decisively when the timing is optimal. Consider historical figures who wielded silence as a form of influence. Their restraint often strengthened alliances, allowed for subtle negotiation, and ensured that their words, when finally spoken, commanded attention and respect. Silence can also create space for reflection among others, encouraging them to reveal intentions, weaknesses, or opportunities that would otherwise remain hidden. The risks of speaking at the wrong time are not abstract, they are immediate and tangible. A hasty comment can provoke outrage, undermine strategy, and invite retaliation. For example, in international diplomacy, a single offhand statement about territorial claims or military intentions can escalate tensions, trigger economic sanctions, or even provoke armed conflict. In domestic governance, a premature disclosure of policy details can destabilize markets, confuse stakeholders, or alienate allies. Beyond politics, everyday examples abound. Employees, community leaders, and public figures who speak without consideration often face backlash that could have been avoided with patience. In each case, the consequences of speech far outweigh the potential benefits of immediate expression. On the other hand, the risks of silence are often misunderstood. Silence is sometimes perceived as weakness, indecision, or complicity. Critics may interpret quietude as passivity, and followers may feel unheard. Yet in high-stakes contexts, strategic silence is rarely a failure. It is a conscious choice to withhold information until it can be leveraged most effectively. A leader who remains silent during a volatile moment demonstrates discipline, foresight, and an understanding of timing that impulsive speech cannot match. The benefits are numerous: clarity of thought, control over narrative, preservation of trust, and avoidance of unnecessary conflict. Illustrative examples further clarify the contrast. In diplomacy, when a negotiator refrains from responding immediately to provocation, the opposing party may reveal its true position, allowing for more informed and effective negotiation later. In political debates, a well-timed pause before answering a contentious question can diffuse tension, demonstrate confidence, and prevent misstatements. Conversely, leaders who react impulsively risk alienating allies, emboldening adversaries, and damaging credibility. Even in everyday organizational contexts, managers who respond instantly to criticism or rumors often exacerbate issues, while those who pause to understand the situation respond more effectively. Ultimately, the consequences of speech versus silence underscore a fundamental truth. Words are tools, and like any tool, their impact depends on timing, context, and intent. Speaking too soon or without reflection can dismantle carefully constructed plans, expose vulnerabilities, and provoke unintended outcomes. Silence, when exercised deliberately, preserves influence, protects relationships, and ensures that when the time to speak arrives, the words carry authority and precision. For leaders, understanding this dynamic is essential. Every statement must be weighed against potential outcomes, every pause measured against the value of immediate expression, and every silence appreciated for the strategic advantage it affords. In essence, the choice is rarely between action and inaction. It is between thoughtful, deliberate engagement and impulsive, potentially destructive expression. Recognizing the profound consequences of each decision transforms silence from a passive state into an active strategy, a demonstration of control, judgment, and leadership. 3. Strategies. Silence is a skill, not merely the absence of speech. Like any skill, it can be cultivated through practice, awareness, and deliberate strategy. Leaders who master restraint recognize that controlling the impulse to speak requires preparation, discipline, and psychological insight. The following strategies provide practical methods to observe silence effectively, maintain self-control, and time interventions for maximum impact. 1. Awareness and self-monitoring. The first step is cultivating awareness of one's impulses. Recognize the moments when the urge to speak arises, often triggered by emotion, pressure, or the desire to assert authority. By identifying these triggers, leaders can pause, assess, and choose whether expression serves their objectives or undermines them. Techniques such as mental rehearsal or visualization, imagining oneself in high-pressure conversations and practicing measured responses, strengthen this self-awareness. Journaling or reflecting on past situations where speaking prematurely caused negative outcomes can also reinforce the value of restraint. 2. Controlled pausing. A simple but powerful strategy is the deliberate pause. Before responding, take a breath, count silently, or allow a few seconds of reflection. This pause creates mental space to evaluate the context, consequences, and appropriateness of speaking. Research in communication psychology suggests that pauses not only prevent hasty remarks, but also enhance the perceived authority and credibility of the speaker. Silence signals thoughtfulness and control, encouraging others to respect your judgment and providing time for additional information to emerge. 3. Prioritizing listening over speaking. Active listening is central to strategic silence. By focusing on understanding others' perspectives, intentions, and concerns, leaders gain valuable insight. Listening attentively allows for more accurate assessment of the situation, the motivations of participants, and potential risks. Furthermore, it positions silence as an active, engaged practice rather than passive withdrawal. Leaders who listen first are better equipped to craft responses that are precise, impactful, and aligned with long-term objectives. 4. Setting mental and physical cues. Practical cues can reinforce restraint. Some leaders keep written reminders near their workspace. Phrases like, "think before you speak," or "measure impact before expression." Others use physical techniques, such as holding a pen, clasping hands, or gently tapping fingers to channel nervous energy away from speech. Conditioning oneself to these cues strengthens the association between the impulse to speak and the conscious act of restraint. Over time, this becomes an automatic response that preserves composure even under stress. 5. Strategic framing and timing. When speech is necessary, timing and framing are critical. Silence is most effective when paired with precise, carefully considered intervention. Leaders can wait for the right moment. When attention is focused, emotions have stabilized, and the audience is receptive. Structuring statements with clarity, brevity, and impact ensures that the words spoken carry authority. Strategic framing involves choosing the right tone, emphasizing shared values, and anticipating potential misinterpretations. By combining silence with thoughtful expression, leaders maximize influence while minimizing risk. 6. Psychological techniques for self-control. Several mental strategies support restraint. Cognitive reappraisal involves reframing the situation mentally to reduce emotional reactivity. For instance, viewing a provocative statement as an opportunity for observation rather than confrontation helps maintain composure. Mindfulness practices, such as focused breathing or meditation, strengthen the ability to remain present and resist impulsive speech. Visualization of desired outcomes reinforces the value of silence and the potential consequences of premature expression. Over time, these techniques enhance emotional intelligence, self-regulation, and decision-making under pressure. 7. Learning from experience. Mastery of silence grows through reflection and analysis. Leaders should regularly review situations where speaking or remaining silent influenced outcomes. What worked? What could have been improved? This ongoing evaluation sharpens judgment and builds confidence in the choice to withhold words. Mentorship, peer feedback, and studying historical examples of effective restraint can further reinforce these lessons. 8. Integrating silence into leadership practice. Ultimately, these strategies are most effective when embedded into daily leadership practice. Silence becomes a tool, not an absence of action, but an intentional act of strategy. Leaders who consistently apply these methods cultivate patience, clarity and authority. They understand that every word carries weight, and that measured silence can achieve results unattainable through impulsive speech. Over time, this disciplined approach transforms silence from a defensive posture into a powerful instrument of influence, persuasion, and leadership. By combining awareness, controlled pausing, attentive listening, strategic timing, psychological techniques, and reflective learning, leaders develop the capacity to wield silence with precision. Restraint becomes a conscious choice rather than a reaction, and every moment of withheld speech strengthens credibility, preserves influence, and positions leaders to act decisively when their words are most needed. In mastering these strategies, silence evolves from a passive state into a defining hallmark of effective leadership. 4. Broader lessons. The lessons of silence and restraint extend far beyond the narrow confines of a single meeting or political debate. They resonate across leadership, personal development, and the broader dynamics of human interaction. Discretion, patience, and the careful management of speech are not merely tactical tools. They are foundational principles of effective leadership and enduring influence. First, silence teaches the value of discretion. In leadership, not every thought, opinion, or observation needs to be expressed. The ability to discern what to share, when, and with whom is critical. Discretion protects sensitive information, preserves relationships, and fosters trust. A leader who speaks indiscriminately risks eroding confidence, undermining alliances, and creating confusion. By exercising discretion, leaders signal judgment, prudence, and reliability, qualities that inspire respect and loyalty in colleagues, followers, and the broader community. Second, silence cultivates patience. In a world driven by immediacy, the impulse to react quickly can overshadow thoughtful deliberation. Yet, patience allows leaders to observe, analyze, and make decisions that are measured, strategic, and impactful. It enables a broader perspective, helping leaders weigh short-term impulses against long-term objectives. By pausing, observing, and reflecting, leaders gain insight into the motivations of others, anticipate consequences, and choose the optimal moment for action. Patience is not passive waiting. It is deliberate preparation, the calm before decisive action, and a testament to self-discipline. Third, silence reinforces emotional intelligence. Leaders who restrain their words demonstrate control over their emotions, a key element of effective influence. Emotional intelligence involves understanding one's own reactions, empathizing with others, and navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. When a leader can maintain composure in tense situations, they reduce the risk of conflict, create space for dialogue, and inspire confidence. Silence, therefore, is not withdrawal. It is an active exercise of empathy, perception, and strategic foresight. Fourth, the broader principle of measured communication applies to all spheres of leadership, from politics to business, from community organization to personal relationships. Every environment contains stakeholders, interests, and consequences that are sensitive to timing and framing. Leaders who master when to speak and when to remain silent wield influence more effectively than those who rely solely on rhetoric or volume. Their words carry authority precisely because they are chosen carefully, weighted thoughtfully, and delivered at the moment when they will have maximum impact. Fifth, silence can serve as a tool for strategic observation. By listening attentively and remaining quiet, leaders gather intelligence that might otherwise remain hidden. People reveal intentions, weaknesses, and opportunities when they believe their statements will not be immediately countered. This allows leaders to act with precision and confidence, making decisions that are informed, deliberate, and far-reaching. Silence thus becomes both a shield and a lens. A shield that protects against reckless expression, and a lens that clarifies the landscape of opportunity and risk. Sixth, the practice of restraint encourages a culture of thoughtful discourse. Leaders who model silence and reflection set a standard for others, fostering environments where deliberation and respect prevail over impulsive expression. Teams, Organizations and communities flourish when communication is intentional, measured, and considerate. By demonstrating that not every reaction requires an immediate response, leaders cultivate patience, responsibility, and critical thinking in those around them. Finally, silence embodies a principle central to enduring leadership: long-term vision over short-term gratification. Immediate expression may provide temporary relief, validation, or influence, but it often carries hidden costs. In contrast, restraint allows leaders to act at the moment of greatest efficacy, ensuring that their words and actions produce lasting results. It reflects a mindset attuned to consequences, aligned with strategic objectives, and respectful of the broader context in which decisions unfold. In sum, the broader lessons of silence, discretion, and patience extend far beyond any single scenario. They teach leaders to value restraint over impulsivity, reflection over reaction, and strategy over immediate gratification. These principles define leadership that is sustainable, credible, and influential. By internalizing and applying them consistently, leaders cultivate not only their own effectiveness, but also the resilience, trust, and cohesion of the communities and organizations they serve. Silence, far from emptiness, becomes a powerful conduit for wisdom, judgment, and enduring impact. As we reach the culmination of this discussion, it becomes clear that the instruction given to elected representatives, "Hold your tongue, this is not the time to speak," is far more than a simple directive. It is a guiding principle that transcends the immediacy of any single situation, offering a roadmap for leadership, strategy, and personal discipline. The lessons embedded in this counsel resonate across political arenas, professional environments, and the everyday challenges of human interaction. They remind us that every word carries weight, every utterance has consequence, and every pause holds potential. Throughout this exploration, we have examined the historical and political contexts that give rise to such instructions. Leaders who speak prematurely, without discretion, have repeatedly faced consequences ranging from eroded trust to destabilized institutions. By contrast, those who exercise restraint, waiting for the precise moment to express themselves, often achieve influence, preserve relationships, and secure outcomes that would have been impossible in haste. Understanding this dynamic is crucial. The art of leadership is not merely about speaking with confidence, but knowing when silence itself becomes the most powerful form of communication. We have also delved into the consequences of speaking versus remaining silent. Words have the capacity to ignite action, inspire loyalty, or provoke turmoil. They can heal or harm, clarify or confuse. The examples drawn from history, diplomacy, and contemporary governance highlight a recurring truth. Impulsive speech often undermines objectives, whereas measured silence amplifies authority and strategic advantage. Leaders must weigh the immediate desire to respond against the long-term impact of their expression, recognizing that restraint is a form of foresight, and foresight is a hallmark of effective leadership. Equally important are the strategies that enable leaders to harness silence effectively. Awareness of one's impulses, controlled pausing, active listening, and psychological techniques such as cognitive reappraisal and mindfulness empower leaders to maintain composure under pressure. Strategic timing ensures that when speech is eventually offered, it carries precision, clarity, and influence. By integrating these techniques into daily practice, silence transforms from passive inaction into an active instrument of control, observation, and persuasion. It is through such disciplined application that leaders refine their judgment, safeguard their credibility, and enhance the impact of their words when they matter most. The broader lessons extend beyond immediate political or organizational contexts. Silence cultivates discretion, patience, emotional intelligence, and thoughtful engagement. Leaders who model restraint set a standard for others, fostering cultures where deliberate communication, critical thinking, and respect prevail. In doing so, they not only protect their own authority, but strengthen the cohesion, trust, and resilience of the groups they serve. The ability to hold one's tongue becomes a conduit for wisdom, strategic insight, and enduring influence, demonstrating that restraint is far from passivity. It is a proactive, deliberate choice that shapes outcomes in profound ways. As we reflect on these principles, several key takeaways emerge. Every word matters. Thoughtless speech can carry consequences far beyond the moment. Silence is strategic. It is not weakness, but a deliberate tool to preserve influence and credibility. Patience amplifies impact. Waiting for the right moment ensures that words carry maximum weight. Discretion protects relationships and institutions. Choosing what, when, and how to speak demonstrates wisdom. Restraint fosters reflection, observation, and understanding. Listening and pausing provide insights unavailable to those who speak first. Strategic silence is a hallmark of enduring leadership. It strengthens authority, inspires trust, and positions leaders for long-term success. In conclusion, the instruction to hold your tongue is not a limitation. It is an empowerment. It equips leaders with a profound advantage: the ability to navigate complexity, act decisively, and communicate effectively at the precise moment that matters. Every moment of restraint is an investment in clarity, influence, and strategic efficacy. By embracing silence as an active practice, leaders demonstrate discipline, judgment, and foresight, qualities that distinguish enduring leadership from fleeting authority. As you carry these lessons forward, reflect on the situations in your own life where restraint may serve as your greatest tool. Observe, listen, and wait for the right moment to speak. Consider the power of your words, the impact of their timing, and the invisible strength that comes from measured silence. Let this understanding guide not only your professional decisions, but your personal interactions, shaping your communication with intention, care, and foresight. Ultimately, silence is not emptiness. It is presence, influence, and strategy. It is a declaration that you act with wisdom, that you value the context of your words, and that you understand the power inherent in knowing when to speak and when to remain still. By mastering this principle, leaders do more than avoid error. They create space for insight, trust, and lasting impact. Let the power of strategic silence guide your decisions, fortify your authority, and define the legacy of your leadership.